Welcome, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? Can I have the first two cards in our 5-card spread? First two cards we are starting our day off with today are the Knight of Cups in its reversal, in combination with our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing in this energy right now. Okay, so we were talking about this before we started the podcast. I'm going to bring it back up. We've got something very unique that has been happening over the last few days, particularly during this eclipse cycle. I want to walk you through kind of the movement in the spheres, if you will, that we saw during this eclipse to give you some indications on why you might be feeling a little bit of this like emotional yo-yo right now. So as I mentioned, when we first entered this eclipse cycle that we just completed a few days ago, everything was sitting is we had Venus and Mercury, okay, that were in Aries. And at that moment, they pretty much just crossed into Aries. And so what's been happening during this retrograde cycle is that effectively Venus and Mercury have been pulling backwards as Neptune has been pushing forwards up into Aries. Now, one of the things that we talked about is there's almost like, I want to say, this isn't ideal because there's a bit of an energetic incongruity that's happening in this moment that we were experiencing that. We talked a little bit about the fact that the way I like to describe Neptune energy is very much like caboose energy, right? It's heavy. It holds a memory. It's like the memory bank, right? It contains the depth of the emotions of what we feel. Now, Neptune, to a certain extent, is exalted in Pisces. It wants to be in that space, right? Because it feels comfortable. It feels like the place of being able to feel that intensity of swimming the depth of emotionality. But that's not what occurred here. Neptune started pushing into Aries, right? And what did we see that were a lot of those lessons that were being navigated as we saw Neptune pushing into Aries, right? A lot of those messages that we saw that were happening had to do with conversations around not confusing depth with direction, right? If these are situations that like Neptune's messages are always incredible because again, Neptune says Neptune has the depth of the ocean, but you can also sail a ship on emotions, right? It all is a lot of those conversations as it relates to invested energy and effort of intention. At the same time, Mercury is engine energy. Mercury is always about the advancement. Mercury is about the innovation, right? What do we have Mercury doing? The energy that's usually moving forwards is pulling backwards, right? Being pulled back into Pisces. So these two are like two ships passing each other like during this cycle, and we have Venus stuck in between them. Now, you'll recall last month I kept on saying we're moving towards Renaissance energy. We're moving towards Renaissance energy, but I couldn't necessarily put my finger on why it was Renaissance energy. This is why. Because it is when we have those moments of incongruity, we land upon moments of sublimity, right? When we move things into spaces that we don't expect them to be, sometimes we see things about them that we could not see before, right? And I keep on seeing that there's a lot of this work that is potentially happening right now is working through identifying and recognizing incongruous consistency. What is incongruous consistency? When something, and this is the thing that we were like, and this is one of the things that we're identifying here, and this is really important for the energy coming in, like that's in separation. One of the things we talk about as it relates to healthy relationship is the security and stability of being able to feel something and experience another in a consistent way, right? When our love is consistent, when our affection is consistent, it feels energetically stabilizing, right? It's stabilizing to the self. It allows for that ability of not needing to focus and to over concentrate upon something, right? However, and this is what I keep on seeing that was happening here. And you'll recall that I was articulating, remember when I was saying a few days ago, I would not be surprised if things from the past are rising back up right now, emotionally, spiritually, or physically, right? Because when we feel stirred, right? When we feel emotionally stirred, that isn't consistent. Okay? Inspiration is not consistency. Aspiration is consistent. Inspiration is inconsistent. So I keep on seeing that there is a lot of work that's occurring right now through working through the difference between things that are inspirational versus things that are aspirational. And how do we effectively identify that? When something is inspirational, it's entirely emotionally driven, right? There's no consistency at play in it, right? When we're inspired, we are stirred, we are moved, right? But there's no predicating upon when those moments are. Now, again, ironically, if you follow astrology, you can sometimes find moments that you recognize that the planets, like when the planets are aligned, sometimes we have those we have those like inspirational stirrings, if you will. Like this type of energy that we're having right now, this is very inspiring. Okay. But when we recognize, and a lot of the work that we do when we're feeling inspired is to try to aspire to create consistency in that space of inspiration, right? Because that's that moment that it's like the inspiration that helps set the new energetic standard, right? It's coming into, and that's, remember what I was saying, don't get frustrated, get focused, like build anew, working in that context right now. But one of the things that I'm seeing, right, and this is what's happening for a lot of the energy right now, coming in, coming out of separation into union at this time. This is a lot of energy that is identifying what the work is. They're building into a space of aspiration. They're identifying, they were disassembling what occurred in previous experiences in order to build something better within the self, but not projecting it outwards, articulating upon what those changes are. So this is why this is chariot energy right now, because it is aspirational, but it's recognizably aspirational. It's seeing someone that is articulating upon what they aspire to do and putting the wherewithal towards it to be able to move out of the space of wish and into the space of manifestation. However, what occurs in those moments where we're healing from something and then someone reaches back out to us in an emotional way, or someone feels like, or someone comes towards us in a way that it's just that emotional opening up, right? There's a relevance here in terms of being able to recognize the difference between someone that tries to build forth in partnership as it relates to when they feel inspired to do so or when they feel inclined to do so, versus the energy that identifies and recognizes where the work begins, or that consistency that we create within one another and beyond and for one another. So everything I keep on seeing here, that's why I keep on seeing that there's a lot of work right now, new energetic beginnings that are occurring here, flourishing, right? I see a lot of beautiful relationships that are unfolding at this time. And it's showing that level or degree of building into the context of feeling the tenderness of consistent energy, right? Something that is small, but is consistent. And when something is small and consistent, it begins to grow, right? It's growing by degrees. It's taking that time versus, right, separation or closure points at this time where another person is articulating upon situations and circumstances that don't feel like they're consistent, but are beholden to another person feeling emotionally or energetically inspired. And this is why, like, when we try to build towards relationships that are built on inspiration, they quickly, I keep on hearing, they become exhaustive because we never know what to expect from them. And when they come in, they feel like they create those crash points because it's out of the blue, right? It's like a shooting star kind of energy. So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of this energy that's working through that in separation and identifying the directionality as it relates to the difference between something that is a relationship that is inspirational, only when someone feels inclined or emotionally moved, potentially by the planets, or aspirational, something that is effectively consistent and growing over time in a consistent, observable, productive, healthy way. Now, moving into the energy coming in, like moving deeper into divine union right now. One card to clarify. Look at that. Look at that energy. And here's the thing about it. I need to stress this. I'm actually very happy to see the death card here. Why? Because we're talking a lot about Scorpio, right? We were talking a lot about that point of transformation, right? And that's the thing about it. When we teach the classes, we work very hard to help recognize that, it's not about, it's working on and recognizing what it is that one is changing, right? And often, and this is why I'm not surprised to see this death card here in the center of the spread, because the ability, right? The ability to articulate upon something, the ability to find the words to describe something, it allows for a transformation of self. This is what's happening right now for a lot of the energy coming into divine union. If you'll recall, we spoke a lot about this. Remember, I kept on saying that the energy right now coming into divine union is very scorpionic. Well, this is a Scorpio card here. It's not about being perfect, right? And that's why I keep on hearing, this is why the energy is in that space. This is not energy that is moved into divine union that feels that they are perfect. This is the energy that feels like they recognize where the work is. And when we recognize where the work is, that we're working on the self, we become perfected because we understand and identify the assignment of the self, right? And that's why I keep on seeing that there's a lot of this energy working through that context, right? Like this is energy. These warrior partnerships that have moved deeper into divine union, this is why this is so important to them, because there's a lot of energy right now moving deeper into divine union that literally feels like they're finding themselves in partnership. But you'll remember what is important here. When I say finding self through partnership, this isn't meaning they're looking at their counterpart and saying, you complete me. They're looking at their counterpart and saying, through you, I see where my work begins. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, this is why I keep on seeing more of that conversation as it relates to the firmament of things that are valuable and necessary. And this is a lot of the same work I saw in working through points of frustration to identify and articulate the difference between stubbornness, right? A refusal to change, which often is indicative of an inability to see an aspect of the self, versus holding on to something from a point of exquisite insistence, holding on to something because you see oneself more clearly through it. Continuing to get clarification, fourth and fifth card in our 5-card spreads before we start getting clarification on these cards. 9 of Wands and the 9 of Swords together. Wow, that's cool. Make sure that you take a moment once this reading's complete to take, if you're following over the podcast, you can see the full spread over in the Substack when we post it. When we post when post is posted there, when the post is posted there. But this is what I mean about the gift that is happening right now for a lot of the energy working through things right now is being able to identify and recognize the difference between inspirational and aspirational. Seeing something, again, the difference between a wish and a manifestation, right? The ability to work towards something versus someone, like I keep on hearing, like the difference between Like the difference between consistent effort versus bursts, right? Remember when we were talking about training wheels energy, the chariot lessons that we often experience are training wheel energy? That's why. And we talk a lot about this. If you're in the Tarot Church Library, you can follow up on that chariot class. The reason there's so much rigidity in the way Pamela Coleman Smith depicted that card is because a lot of the lessons that we have to navigate as it relates to chariot lessons is understanding how flippin' hard it is to start something. And that's that, like it's a conversation on force, right? When you start something, it feels like it's impossible, but that's why you put consistent effort towards it again and again, because once you start to build into that context of momentum, things start becoming easier. Anything is possible, right? This is often identified in why we try to build towards aspirational partnership, because when we hold ourselves to that standard, we identify and we recognize the work, right? The energy of consistent effort. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, the ability to look, and again, as it relates to which direction energy and separation is going, that's always a limitation point that we reach in a collective reading. But I see even now the determination point or the pivot point that's occurring in a lot of those partnerships is being able to recognize and identify the difference between inspirational versus aspirational, right? Inspirational, something that feels more energetically captivating, feeling more in that space of someone that only like that when the mood strikes or when they feel inclined, they move towards another, but then they pull back, right? And this is why this is wrapped up in Neptune lessons, because that feels more difficult to the nervous system, because it's like the unpredictable wave of inspiration that another like sets upon us, right? When the mood strikes, when they're feeling inclined, when the planets are aligned, suddenly like someone feels in the grip of sentimentality and they reach out to us. But I can see even now that there's something about that inconsistency itself that energy is seeing a consistent point upon, right? And so often when we see that, it almost feels like the ability of seeing another that is more in the space of being navigated. And remember, what's all the work that we've been talking about so much right now as it relates to chariot lessons. What are the chariot lessons? The difference between intentionality, recognizing the emotions and allowing one's intention to guide you forward, versus those spaces where we get frustrated because it feels like another doesn't have control of their emotions because they don't necessarily see how they're impacting those around them, right? And so I keep on seeing, like, I almost have that moment or those modalities that we're seeing here that is having to do with being able to recognize that point of consistency, that point of stability, as opposed to something that feels more energetically inconsistent, or something that was only like someone only that tries to build towards when the mood strikes. Now, for a lot of the energy right now, this is why this feels so fundamental, because you remember what I told you, for a lot of that energy moving into healthy partnership right now, this is the gift of the consistency of partnership that helps us see ourselves more clearly. And this is why the energy coming into divine union right now is articulating and saying to one another, you complete me. Is this an energy saying, you complete me because I was lacking without you? No, the energy is saying you complete me because this is the energy that says, through you, I see what my assignment is. Through you, my purpose becomes clearer. Through you, I understand what that like. And when we're in the space of healthy relationship, that ability to inspire one another becomes the joint force of inspirational and aspirational combined, right? Because it is the force of inspiration that we feel when we look at the counterpart that then inspires us to aspire higher, right? So there's a lot of that work I keep on seeing coming towards that Libra full moon as it relates to setting those energetic standards. Continuing to get clarification between our Knight of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal. Can I get one card to clarify Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Cups in its upright. This is the Renaissance energy I was talking about. It's interesting. I'm laughing because when I was reading on it, I wasn't exactly clear as to why I kept on hearing the word Renaissance. But now it's becoming more clear, because I see even now the ability I keep on seeing the ability to identify and recognize when we are able to put words, like when we are able to put words to things that we could not put words to before, right? When we're able to appreciate something in the context of moving it into something that it hasn't been before, that is what a renaissance is, right? It is a revival energy. It is an energy of being able to see something with a deeper understanding of the value of it, based and built upon the context wherein you are observing it. So I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy in that space, being able to do that, there's a lot of energy right now. This is why that these chariot partnerships, it feels like it feels like a bit of a renaissance, because this is the energy that in the moment that they start to build into aspirational partnership with another, in the moment that they start to see the value and feel the security of something that is starting small but has consistency, they're able to recognize what feels like it wasn't energetically healthy because it was more built upon inspiration, something that was only strong when another person felt inspired and inclined, or following the emotions, instead of building forth into a space of intention. And that's why I said even now, there may be a lot of frustration. I keep on hearing frustration and relief that is being expressed as it relates to some of these circumstances or situations, because it's the ability to observe and understand what the problem is, and to have another that simultaneously recognizes it, that allows for that feeling of having like a breath of fresh air. Continuing to get clarification for the energy moving deeper into divine union between our Nine of Pentacles in its reversal, in combination with our Death card in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Cups. And this is beautiful, because for a lot of the energy right now, why are we calling these partnerships that are starting right now chariot partnerships? Because they're slow to grow, but they're consistent. They're building trust in one another via the continual, committed, stable effort, right? It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like, and if these are situations where someone is recovering from a situation where there was more spontaneity, like I don't want to say spontaneity, but less stability, right? A lot of passion, but never any clarity. Like I just keep on seeing that this is a lot of that energy that is like healing and helping one another through that, because it's in the point that they're able to articulate upon what they experience and feel the sense of another who simultaneously also navigated that hurt, that they're able to build into that aspiration and again, stumbling upwards. While for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, this is why this is a deepening of an energetic connection, because I see even now that this is the energy that was working through the last week, opening up to one another in ways that they hadn't before. But in those moments that we open up to each other about the hard parts of the self that are hard for us to see, and another person holds our hands through those experiences and says, "You are beautiful to me," in any context, this is the deepening of the bonds of partnership. So I see even now, like there's a lot of that energy that is building upon that pathwork together. While for deep masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to, deep within divine union right now, I keep on seeing this is energy that is able to articulate the difference between like stubbornness and tenacity, right? Those moments that feel like, again, it's like the observational point in the refusal to hear something because it's indulgent to the ego, right? versus those moments or experiences that we're eager to unpack something we hold dearly because the higher self is able to articulate and identify how important it is to us. Continuing to get clarification on our death card in its upright in combination with our 9 of wands in its upright. May I have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with the 7 of cups in its reversal. It'll be a breakthrough, but it'll bother you first. Okay. It'll annoy you, and then it'll be a breakthrough. It'll drive you nuts, and then it'll be a breakthrough. That's the thing about this energy that is a little, like, it's a little bit, it's not a little bit frustrating. I gotta tell you, it's got to do a little bit with the fact that Mercury's behind Neptune right now. Like, I gotta tell you. Because I can already hear it. There's a lot of energy going, well, in hindsight, it's clear, right? But that's the thing. When something is like, I'm going to walk you through like what we're like, okay, so remember how I said that Mercury's the engine. It's like the engine on the choo-choo train. It's like supposed to be up in the front, right? Neptune is the caboose. Neptune is the energy from the back. So I want you to imagine right now that like Neptune, like Mercury is like waking up out of retrograde and it can see behind Neptune in a way that it hasn't before, right? So there may be a lot of this work that's happening right now in being able to see something that from a perspective or for a point of view that feels completely on its head in a way that you just haven't even like thought about it and you're going, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? Like those kind of things. And that's why in those moments you get very frustrated at yourself because you're like, it's obvious, but it's not obvious because sometimes it takes a long time to be able to reach a certain perspective. Right? So I keep on seeing, I want you to remember that like hindsight is 2020 because hindsight's faulty. Because if we were like, again, if you were the energy that you are now, like, of course you would see things, you know what I mean? Like I keep on seeing a lot of that, like happening here. So working through like that, those points of frustration, right? And being able to find the language, like being able to find the words, it's understanding the incongruity. Sometimes incongruity brings clarity, right? Moving away from something builds perspective. It's all about getting it's sometimes the only way you can see something clearly is if you remember, you gotta step back from it, right? So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of that energy working through that. And again, if you're being hard on yourself in that context, baby, don't be hard on yourself. Be aspirational, right? Build into those be solutions focused, not problem oriented. Continuing to get clarification here between our 9 of wands in combination with our 9 of swords and it's upright. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Come on. Oh, one. Thank you. Sorry. We've got here our Knight of Swords in its reversal. And I gotta say, and I gotta stress this right now. I am seeing how do I describe this? When we are able to navigate through our frustration and be focused through it, right? When we don't allow the frustration to confound us, we allow it to, when we allow it to, I keep on saying, when we don't push our frustration away, but we allow our frustration to shape us, we become better in that space. And why is that? Because I keep on hearing better, not bitter, right? Better, not bitter. Because I need to point out when we hold on to frustration, and we hold on to the frustration, and we say why to the frustration, then we're in that space that we're not introspecting, right? We feel often like things are happening to us instead of helping us find ourselves. But when we move the frustration aside, right? And we look at frustration and say, there's got to be a better way. Like there's got to be a better way, right? Like we ask ourselves why, right? Like we don't, like, I need to point this out. I keep on seeing the difference, like a lot of the difference in relationality to why does it have to be this way versus what can I do differently is what is shaping the direction of a lot of energetic partnerships. Now, and that's important because that is the energy. I keep on seeing that I keep on hearing the gift of deliverance for a lot of these new partnerships that are forming at this time is this is energy that doesn't focus on frustration. Because when we focus on frustration, when we perseverate over something that we can't change, when we spend all our time kicking and screaming about why something has to be the way it is, we avoid asking the important question, which is, what can I do to make something energetically better? How can I, like, what do I, like, it's like not getting confounded about what's happening, just working through the energy of it, what it takes to move around it, right? And that's what's beautiful, like, about some of these energetic connections that are forming at this time. Keep on seeing that there is that moment of identifying the quality of aspiration in the potential counterpart. And what is aspirational? Aspirational is not someone who gets caught in a woe is me attitude and relationality to things that are occurring around them. They just look to themselves and say, and this is where it feels like a Gemini lesson, because this is a beautiful gift that Geminis have. What do I need to find in myself? Like, what do I need to bring forth in myself to navigate through a situation, right? And that's why I feel like I want to find out. It's interesting because I know we're moving towards Libra, but it actually feels like a lot of these lessons that we're moving towards at this time feel more like Gemini energy, because it's about, and I keep on seeing, it's like I keep on hearing it's about circumventing situations by going through the self, right? Like when we're trying, and that's why they're saying it's like about circumventing situations by going through the self, because you don't look around and say, why, like you don't waste your time wondering why outside of the self. You ask the why within, right? Like why, like what do I need to bring forth to navigate this? What do I need to do to like work through this? It's very interesting in that way, because this is the energy that that works on their why by saying there has to be a better way, right? It's not the energy that gets caught in saying why. It's the energy that utilizes the energy of asking the question why to say there has to be a better way. And hey, I'm here. I can be that. That's the energy that goes, like, that's the energy that is more in a space of looking for solutions as opposed to focusing on problems, right? Because, and this is why I'm not surprised to see this right now, because, and we'll get further clarity between our Ace of Cups here in combination with our Two of Cups. And I just want to show you guys this right now. This is the Chariot energy. You see that? I want you to think about the Chariot card. I know it's not here right now. So for those who are watching the podcast, I'm holding the Two of Cups with the Ace of Cups above it, right? When we work in the space of applied, like this is why for some of the energy right now in separation, coming into partnership and feeling the relief and release of someone that feels like they're putting that same force of effort into something as you yourself is, right? It allows for the context where it feels like anything is possible. Because this is a lot of that energy that is articulate. But again, even as they're experiencing that, there may be a lot of release as it relates to situations in the past where someone was more in the context of being inspirational instead of aspirational. Clarification between our Ace of Cups in combination with our Two of Cups, and it's upright. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands, and I'm not surprised. And this is feeling like a lot of Gemini messages today. It's also feeling like a lot of Mercury messages, right? And this is always the message I get when Mercury is in retrograde, which is the fact is like, the reason things start like Mercury is the energy of innovation, right? I always tell you guys when we're going through these Mercury retrograde cycles, Mercury is not trying to break your toaster oven, okay? Mercury goes into retrograde to help us define the difference between a groove and a rut. And sometimes when we go through those moments and we get confounded by something, we look and we say to ourselves, what do we say, right? If we don't allow ourselves to be caught on the hook of frustration, if we don't allow ourselves to kind of fall kicking and screaming and saying, why, but saying there has to be a better way, boom, we answer our why, right? Like it's the why that we answer within the self, because we answer the call of the why. We don't look outside the self and say why. We look at ourselves internally and we say, like, why does it have to be this way? What can I do to change it? Is there something that I can do that can make something easier? And that's often why. And I'll stress this to you. For everything that breaks during your retrograde, I want you to put credit to what you innovate upon, what you fix, right? Because that's the message that Mercury often delivers when we come out of these retrogrades. Mercury is always like, did I break your toaster? Or did I get you a new one? It has to be in that space of arriving to the self and being ready to do the work. At the same time, right? I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, in separation, working through the context of frustration, working through a lot of those moments, identifying and recognizing what those changes are, applying that like letting that kind of set the standard for the self. This is why I keep on seeing that for energy coming into divine union right now, a lot of that work, being able to articulate and build upon what those changes are. This is a lot of energy right now coming into divine union that is continually like setting new energetic standards for the self. Remember, building into the context of affirmations and resolutions, right? Because these are not the energies that look to one another and say, you complete me. This is the energy that looks towards another and says, through you, I understand my assignment. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, I just keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, this is the energy that is working. I keep on hearing the energy saying, working through the same context of saying the way you can tell the difference between something that is stubborn and something that is important is the ability to explain the reason why, right? And when we are self introspective in that way, we aspire for more, right? We don't build into the context of, I keep on seeing there's a lot of lucidity that's occurring right now in a lot of this space. And it has to do with the fact that Mercury is behind Neptune, because the ability to just see something with clarity, right? Not to feel like the emotions are clouding the vision. That's a little bit of the gift that we're having with the fact that Mercury is placed behind Neptune right now. It's allowing for an ability to see something from a point of objectivity. Continuing to get clarification between our Two of Cups in combination with our Seven of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Wow. We've got our Tower card in the center. Now, I need to stress this because I know, listen, and I know you guys get very anxious when you see cards in these modalities, but I also want to stress that there's something really important about this work, because this was a lot of the work that we were recognizing and identifying in relationality to setting the energetic standards of the self. The ability to navigate through, the ability to find a breakthrough point, right? It is often in relationality to being able to navigate in the face of our own anxiety, of our own frustration. Because, and one of the things that we articulated upon, and this is very intriguing, I would really encourage you to look at yesterday's spread in incongruity with today's spread. These cards were next to each other. The Death card and the Tower card were on the sides of the reading yesterday. And the Nine of Swords was one of the first cards that we encountered. We see even now that there's like a transition point that's occurring in the fact that the Nine of Swords is moving all over to the side. But now there's a lot of that energy with the Tower and the Death card focused in the center that allows, and I keep on seeing, the ability to recognize and identify what one is setting the standard on changing within the self, right? So there's a lot, and this is why I keep on seeing with a lot of this energy of Mercury going direct. I feel like the breakthrough that occurs in those moments or in those experiences is reaffirming as it relates to what it is, what it takes to navigate through energetic adversity, versus those moments that help us identify and recognize the reasons why something wasn't able to come into better union, right? And that's why I keep on seeing here that for a lot of the energy in that space, how can I articulate upon this most clearly? This is, and I need to describe this here, this is also effectively Chariot energy to a certain extent, right? Because what did we identify that often needs to occur in chariot cycles? The identification point that it often takes more force to move something, right? More force to push that intensity forward. It often requires us to understand and recognize what we need to change within the context of the self in the process. So everything that I keep on seeing here, there's a lot of those new energetic connections that are forming right now, specifically and particularly as it relates to relationship, by meeting energetic counterpart that is not afraid of putting in the invested effort, right? Like, this isn't the energy that works in the context of what they feel inspired by. This is the energy that understands that in order to move something forward in a point of stability, the observation of consistent effort is what creates that point of energetic stability. And so this is, I keep on hearing, like, one of the reasons that we see the Death card and the Tower card here is this is the energy that isn't afraid of that work. They're not afraid of doing that work of the self. This is the energy that works in the conscientiousness of what they give to another, and regulating those moments of those intensification points within the self, right? Because what were the conversations that we spoke about that were happening, particularly during a lot of that eclipse cycle? When we aren't doing the work to navigate through our fear, right, then often what we try to give to another doesn't feel like an expression of love. It feels like a projection of our fear. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Cups in its upright. So this is really important here too, because I keep on seeing that there's something that's intriguing that's happening right now in relationality to masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. For a lot of the feminine right now, and I think that this is really intriguing, because you'll recall that a lot of the feminine energy has been more in the modality. We saw a lot of the feminine energy like almost being in hermit mode to a certain extent. You know, there was a lot of that energetic withdrawal. But now I almost see and identify that there's a bit of this flourishing that's happening right now for feminine, right? The ability to focus upon and articulate upon the ability to find joy. And it's interesting too, because I keep on seeing that for a lot of the feminine energy, the ability to find the energetic joy within themselves even in the midst of difficulty, this is effectively the essence of the feminine as it relates to bringing that, like I keep on seeing, like this is the feminine energy that is speaking towards the relief and release of talking from a point of something that is very close to their heart. And also, this is a lot of energy right now of feminine that is learning how to trust again, right? Like I can see this. This is like a blossoming. This is like a blossoming of the feminine's heart space. And why is the feminine's heart space blossoming right now for some of these new energetic connections that are forming? Because it's that blossoming that takes place wherein the feminine feels more and more comfortable to be in their authenticity, consistent care, right? Like how do you have a flower, like how does a flower blossom? Consistent care, consistent, like you don't have to do it, like you don't have to overwater something. You don't have to like energetically like deny something. You give something a consistent amount of care, and over time something begins to bloom. Right? It's that I keep on saying it is the gentle flourishing that is often marked in feeling the love that comes in the security of building towards one another, not with expectations, but simply in the joy of watching something grow. And so I keep on seeing that there's something about the feminine energy moving into partnership right now that is observing that attentiveness, that consistent attentiveness that allows the feminine to almost unfold. For masculine, this is a lot of the masculine energy in that same space. But for masculine energy right now, I keep on saying that for masculine energy, this is that work as it relates to stoicism. This is a lot of the work that we see that relates in relationality to working in the space of being energetically stoic. And we're going to clarify what stoicism here is so that no one confuses it. Stoicism is not disassociating from our emotions. That is not stoicism. All right? Go read some Greek myths. They were very emotional. Okay? Stoicism is the ability to embody the weight of emotionality, but not feel that the emotions override the higher self. The ability to feel the strength that comes through, feeling the magnification of what one feels, but being able to control that force of emotionality and move with intentionality through it. This is how these energies right now are healing as they're coming into union. And for masculine, it feels more like energetically restrictive to a certain extent, but it's the energy of the masculine moving from a point of restrictiveness into stoicism, chariot energy, because chariot energy is stoic. And the feminine that's coming more into that space. I feel like feminine's almost, she's not out here, but it feels like empress energy, which is the feminine that begins to flourish as it relates to recognizing and identifying the consistency of intentionality, which is often marked by aspirational, consistent effort. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Wands in its upright in combination with our Tower card. Can I have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with the Ten of Cups in its reversal. I'm not surprised to see this card here either because it's working through circumstances. And this is a little bit of the cluster, okay? There's a little bit of an astrological cluster right now. There's an astrological cluster. Things are not ideal, right? But things are never ideal. Things have never, ever been ideal, ever. It's not about things being ideal. Ideal is what we make of difficult situations. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, this is happening across all of the frequencies. If these were energies where there's a lot of healing of trauma, and it's the trauma that is applied when another person articulates or puts one in a space of denial because something isn't energetically perfect. But when someone articulates that they're denying you of something because it's perfect, it's not perfect. It's very convenient, right? Because perfection, as we've spoken about here, is not a location. It's a cardinal direction. Things are never perfect. Things are never ideal. And often, if someone articulates that the reason that they don't want to move forward with us is because it's not perfect, what they're really articulating is they don't want to move forward, period. Right? Because those modalities, it's awful convenient, right? When one is looking for a flaw, one will always find a flaw. If one is saying that the condition in order to move forward is perfection, well, one can stay static indefinitely because we identify the fact that perfection is not found, it is made in less than ideal circumstances. And that's why I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, healing, and that's why I keep on hearing that's the healing of someone that was inspired, right? Someone inspirational, someone that was always in that space of only moving towards inclination when they felt inspired to do so, drawing away when they did not, but then trying to articulate the reason they were drawing away was because they were not feeling inspired, right? Sometimes those moments when we recognize them can feel frustrating. They can feel devastating because we don't feel like we are seen in that embrace. We feel like we're serving another person's needs. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union, that consistent effort, the ability to say to one another, and this is why these are messages coming through the frequencies, the ability to say to one another, I am not perfect. And the counterpart that responds back to us, whoever made you feel like you had to be in order to be loved. This is the energy that is healing in the process from those same circumstances and situations. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, this is why a lot of this energy is so protective right now, because a lot of that feeling of protectiveness, right? This is the energy that is able to articulate about the difference between being protective and defensive. And the way we can identify the difference between protective and defensive is the ability to articulate upon the meaning that another thing has to us, not the fear that we inhabit as it relates to discussing it. So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of that. It's a lot of working right now, fundamentally on things, trying to move something forward. But again, not moving away from oneself in the process. Continuing to get clarification between our Tower card in its upright in combination with our Page of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. I called her out. She's out now. All right, we've got our Empress card here. Okay, ask and you shall receive. So I said that this feels like the Empress card. And so here she is. So we've got our Empress card here as well. So a lot of this work that we're seeing, I told you, there's a flourishing, right? It's not floundering, it's flourishing. I told you there's a little bit of this training wheels energy that I see right now, and some of these new partnerships are forming. But it's a lot of that space. I keep on seeing it's the energy that says, pardon my appearance, right? It's a lot of this energy that's trying to articulate, and I keep on seeing as they build trust in each other, they're trying to explain, and almost like trying to explain the trepidation, saying, look, I'm not trying to put the wounds of the past on you. I'm just trying to be energetically careful. But that's why I keep on describing this as chariot partnerships right now, because the level of care, what it takes, I keep on seeing the compassionate I keep on hearing the compassionate persistence through difficulty that is observable as it relates to the fickle effort of the past, wherein someone was only coming towards another at points of inspiration, right? So I just keep on seeing that this is like, look at these two counterparts here coming together in separation, right? The masculine that controls the desire of the self, being empathetic towards the feminine, right? The feminine doing that work in communicating to masculine, the ability to, like I keep on seeing, like the feminine building trust. But these are not relationships where trust is demanded. It's the recognition that trust is earned, and that takes time. So I keep on seeing that there's a lot of that energy there that feels like a point of flourishing, but that flourishing of itself, like they're slow. It's not like these warrior partnerships that we saw in the last energetic cycle that were like wonder twins. They came together and like that was it. Like it's like immediately like they found each other and they just hit the ground running. These are weaving together. These relationships are like lace. They're interlacing with one another. And there's something about that careful interlacing, that effort and degree of care that is showing the significance of those energetic connections. While for masculine and feminine moving deeper into divine union right now, this is why I keep on seeing in your embrace, I am not perfect, but I am perfected, right? In your embrace, I know that I am not perfect, but I am perfected, because this is the energy that says to one another, not only like you see me. And what does it mean when we say to one another, you see me? When we see one another, when we truly see each other clearly, we often have those sublime moments that we recognize the higher self in the context of the person that we love, right? And those are not moments that we build towards a potential, but we see and recognize that higher self within another, right? We see not only what we desire for another, but we feel the sublime alignment in a moment that we recognize that the clarity through which we see another's potential is the same clarity of perspective by which they recognize it within themselves, right? And this is why often the relationships that we're able to build with one another, when we understand ourselves fully, when we understand our path work, they're often met with more clarity, because there's no uncertainty in relationality to who we may become, because we already recognize and identify that path, and we're building towards it with counterpart together. Final card for today's spread, between our 10 of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Empress card in its upright. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Judgment card in its reversal. Now, I'm not surprised to see this right now, because I keep on telling you guys there's something very intriguing that's been happening now with the energy, which is the reconsideration, as it were. Right? I keep on seeing it's like there's a little bit, and we were talking a lot about this last week. I was calling it like the K-turn energy, which apparently is a regional thing. But we've had almost like this astrological pivot point that's been occurring here, right? Because what did we see that was happening? We had Mercury and Venus were in Aries, right? And then Neptune's moving forward. And as Neptune's moving forward, Mercury and Venus were pulling backwards. So it's not exactly it's not a complete reversal. It's almost been like, it's like a pivot. It's like a rotation, because what's happening right now is now Mercury and Venus are going to zip back in front. Like they're going to zip back. Oops, sorry, as I'm knocking my mic. They're going to zip back in front of Neptune, right? It's like almost working through. It's like almost like a little bit of a cosmic knot, if you will, right? Because it's like it's turning into itself and back again. So there's a lot of that space that I see right now as it relates to others reconsidering, right? Working in the space of reconsidering their feelings, or working through the space of reconsidering emotions. But often, I need to point this out, when we reconsider, we're often fortified. Right? Sometimes in those moments that we reconsider, we're actually amplified, because it allows for that context or that modality that allows us to, like I keep on seeing, allows us to have those points of view, like an adjustment of perspective, a breakthrough, if you will. And that's why I'm going to keep on saying the same thing that I said during the eclipse energy. Make sure that you're navigating. Don't assume things right now. If you feel like you're being misunderstood, clarify. If you feel like you misheard something, reaffirm yourself, right? Because again, and that's why I was saying even now, like during that eclipse cycle, working in the context of not taking it personally. When we feel like there's something that we're taking personally, but we're able to recognize and address it with a breath of understanding, there's a lot of, I keep on seeing, there's a lot of breakthroughs that we can have in those modalities or in those experiences. But there's like, I keep on seeing that there's a lot of reorientation that is occurring right now across all the frequencies in relationality to how we feel and the things that have meaning to us. Bottom of the deck on today's reading is there's that Knight of Swords in its reversal. And you'll recall one of the things we kept on seeing. Remember this card? This card was popping up so frequently during this eclipse cycle. This card was all over everything. So a lot of those abilities of feeling very triggered, a lot of those abilities of feeling like little, like I keep on seeing, like a lot of those little like pinpricks, like a lot of those little frustrations, not allowing oneself to be frustrated. How do we navigate through that? We have that sense of compassion, remembering that a lot of the work that we experienced during this Venus retrograde cycle, we can almost identify it as like what one does when we feel like we have grit thrown on the mirror of the self, right? It's the ability to allow the sense that that oftentimes when we see something about the self, if we see something about the self that bothers us, when we get defensive in the face of it, we try to project it outwards. But when it bothers us, we can work on it. We can improve upon it, right? It's the grit that becomes the aspiration, right? And so even here, like the bit of that relief that occurs as it relates to like taking a harsh note or identifying something that you're working on the self in a better way, that adaptability. I want you to kind of embrace a lot of the Gemini energy, which is again, what often do Gemini energy related energy lessons teach us? Everything is a gift in the context of understanding what to do with it. So I want to leave you with that today. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a personal reading with me, you can do so on my website. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I would encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who attended our recent class on the Justice card. Our next class will be held on Wednesday, April 16th, that's next week, at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the Hangman card. If you would like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack and become a paid subscriber. Your subscription to my Substack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. Also, as a paid subscriber, you will have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church library. That is, it's not necessary to catch up. I will be doing my best to give you a recap on everything we've studied thus far in our classes, but the material is there for you to receive as you're ready to receive it. You will also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we have studied or are currently studying. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also have access to the entirety of the Tarot Church Library archive. That's access to over 12 hours worth of material in an ever-growing library. You will also have access to a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will meet with you personally and assess where you are on your own tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage moving towards your personal tarot goals. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining our class program. And even if you don't become a founding member or a subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule. I also post mystic meditations there, which will give you updates on what we've been talking about through the podcast in an article format. I also want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my clients seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. And I'm very happy to offer. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I'm also very happy to now offer dream interpretation readings. You can purchase those on an individual level or as a series. I do encourage, if you purchase the series, that you make sure that you start to keep a dream journal, as we will meet weekly or bi-weekly with that journal and utilize the tarot to understand the key themes and messages coming towards you in the dream space. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.